So as we're halfway through the 11th chapter, we're into questions of doubtful knowledge. The person revoking doesn't necessarily know what's going on. So his wife vowed, he thought it was his daughter thought it was his wife. She vows on figs and grapes, and he maybe confirms the figs, but not the grapes. We're into these boundary cases. And these carry on in the 7th Mishnah. More questions of lack of knowledge. Yodea ani sheyesh nedarim, aval eini yodea sheyesh mefirim. I know that there are vows, but I don't know that there are people that can revoke the vows. I don't know that there are revokers. It seems as though this is someone who knows he knows his wife is swearing, but he doesn't know that he's got the ability to revoke the vows. And then he finds out. And the Mishnah rules yafer. Now we've already said that, and it's a mitzvah from the Torah. The vow has to be revoked on the day that he hears it. It has to be revoked on the day that he hears it or before nightfall. So how can he discover afterwards that it's possible to revoke? It seems as if once he discovers that it's possible to revoke, it's as if he'd heard it on that day, like he gets a fresh day. And the sages will say that it works the other way too. Rabbi Meir is going to disagree, but the sages think it works the other way too. Yodea ani sheyesh mefirim, aval eini yodea shezeh nadar. I know that there are people that can revoke. In other words, I know it's possible to revoke. Aval eini yodea shezeh nadar. I didn't even know. Oh, zeh nadar. Does that mean I don't know that this is a vow, or that this person vowed? If it's this person vowed, then of course it's in the masculine, which makes it very confusing for a husband and wife. And by the way, the printed text has ze neder. So Kaufman has ze nadar, and the printed text has ze neder, which clearly means I didn't know this is a vow. The sense seems to be I didn't know this was a vow. That's why I didn't revoke it. Rabbi Meir omer lo yafer. Rabbi Meir says, look, too bad, too late. You didn't know it was a vow, but it's too late to revoke it. But the sages say he can revoke. It's almost like a mirror image of the first situation. If the realization comes on him one day that he can revoke this vow, essentially, it's as if he'd heard it on that day. He gets a full day to revoke from the time that he hears. And that is the last instance of, if you like, lack of knowledge that the Mishnah is now going to deal with. And the Mishnah then launches into a series of other boundary cases. Let's look at the first one. It's an issue that we've looked at before, where a father-in-law and a son-in-law are in dispute. And one of them has vowed that they won't get benefit from the other. But in this case, the last case we looked at was the wedding of the granddaughter. But now we're going to look at a situation where the father wants to give money to his daughter. He doesn't want to give it to his son-in-law, but he wants to give it to his daughter. Someone who's under a vow that his son-in-law shouldn't get benefit. But he wants to give his daughter money. What does he do? Omerla, he says to her, this money is given to you as a gift. But only on condition that your husband has got no dominion over it, no rights over it whatsoever. Only that you put it in your mouth. That's the literal translation of the Mishnah. Only what you put in your mouth. It seems as though the only right that this money is specifically allocated for your maintenance. It's not allocated for any other purpose. And it seems though that is a reasonable way. That seems to be how they. Anyway, that seems to be how they got around. How you get around this vow. And then the Mishnah goes on to give us a verse. This is almost like a halachic midrash now. Every vow of a widow and a divorcee shall be binding on her. And we've already learned, by the way, that a girl under the age of majority can have her vows annulled by her father and a married woman by her husband. But if she's a widow or she's divorced, she's in her own domain. She's a free woman. And these vows can't be annulled. And we're going to look at some boundary cases where the vow takes effect at a time when her status is different from the time that she makes the vow. So let's have a look. The vow of a widow and a divorcee shall be binding upon her. And we're going to drush it because it seems that, this is the plain meaning of the text is obvious. So the Mishnah asks, Keitzad, how does it work? So let's say she said, Amra, she said, I'm going to be a Nazirite after 30 days. So I'm not going to cut my hair and drink wine after 30 days. So it's a forward starting vow. Even if she gets married during that 30 days, he can't revoke. Even though the vow takes effect during the marriage, it was made before the marriage. He can't revoke a vow that's made before the marriage. Nadra, the Hebrew shutabal, the heferla. Maybe she vows while she's in her husband's domain. Well, clearly he can revoke. But we're going to ask the same question. How does it work? Amra, she said, she said, I'm going to be a Nazirite after 30 days. Maybe she's not going to get married now. She's going to get widowed or divorced. She's married when she makes the vow, but within the 30 days, she's widowed or divorced. But it's been revoked while she's been married. In other words, the revocation, what counts is the status when the vow is made, not the status when the vow takes effect. Nadravo Bayom, she vowed that day. Nit Garshavo Bayom, she was divorced that day. Vehechsiravo Bayom, and he took her back that day. She got married and divorced and got remarried on the same day. Amazing story, this. Boundary case. The Mishnah loves boundary cases. Eino yachol hafer. He can't revoke. This is a vow that she's made after the second marriage. After the second marriage. Sorry. A vow that she made during the first marriage. And now we're talking about the situation during the second marriage. Zehakla. Kol sheyatzat mirushutas ma'asha achat. This is the general rule. Once she's gone into her own domain for a single hour, in other words, once she's become a divorced woman, all possibilities of revoking previous vows just go away completely. Eino yachol lahafer. He can't revoke. Once she's in her own domain, all revocation is no longer possible. He can only revoke vows that she makes while she's married to him, providing that he revokes while she's still married. Marriage is essentially the whole of a key.